Hi everybody, and welcome to my first YouTube video. I'm a big Rocket Lab fan. I like to visualize information and just wanted to speculate about the remaining 2025 Electron launches. Hopefully the audio quality isn't too bad, and let's get into it. First up, we have a graph of all the Electron launches completed to date, broken out by quarter. I've added the results from Q1 2025, where Rocket Lab completed 5 launches. Now, if Rocket Lab can maintain this cadence of 5 launches for the remaining quarters, that will put them at a total of 20 launches for 2025. That would be a 25% increase over the 16 launches that they had last year, but do they have enough launches in the backlog to support this? The answer to that question is yes. From all of the contracts that they've signed so far, they have a backlog of 33 launches. Now the question is, can we find enough information to predict when these 33 launches are going to occur? To do this, we're going to need to dig deeper into that launch backlog and look at each individual customer. That 33 launch backlog is coming from 11 different customers, and this chart shows the number of launches booked for each customer. With 3 customers, Synspective, IQPS, and BlackSky, accounting for 2/3 of the entire backlog. So first up, we have Synspective. They have a launch contract for 10 missions to take place across 2025 to 2027. They also have a contract with SpaceX to launch 2 satellites, which targeted for 2027. So on the left-hand side, I've created a table. In black are all the launches that they've completed to date, and white are where I'm going to predict that the missions occur, with purple being the ones for SpaceX. So taking the date, I can calculate the period between launches in months on the right-hand side. And if we look at the most recent 2 launches in black, we can see that they had a period of 5 months between each launch. So if we assume that they can maintain that launch cadence, that would mean that they should have a launch coming in May and one in October of this year. However, if they need to improve that cadence if they want to fit all the launches in by the end of 2027. So for 2026, I've made the assumption that they're going to make some manufacturing improvements and get that cadence down to every 4 months. And then I have seen online they've talked about getting parallel manufacturing going, so essentially setting up a second production line to produce satellites in parallel. So hopefully by the end of next year, maybe they can get that cadence down to every 2 months. And on the right, I've just visualized that launch cadence. This table shows 2025 broken out by quarter and month and includes 2026 and 2027. So we can take the 10 Synspective launches and add them to this table with 1 in May and 1 in October, and then 4 in 2026 and 4 in 2027. Next up, we have IQPS. They signed a contract last July for 4 launches, with 3 planned in 2025 and 1 in 2026. They then signed a second contract in February of this year that increased the total launches to 8, with 6 planned in 2025 and 2 in 2026. So again, I've made my table on the left-hand side with the completed launches in black and the predicted launches in white. A lot of the completed launches were actually on the Falcon 9 or another rocket, so they're in purple, but Electron have already launched twice for IQPS. For this one, it actually made more sense to work backwards. So given that they signed that contract in February, I like to think that they're fairly confident they're going to want those 6 launches throughout 2025. They've already completed 1 in March. So working backwards, they would need a launch cadence of every 2 months to fit those remaining 5 launches into 2025. And again, on the right, I've just visualized what that launch cadence would look like. And adding those predicted IQPS launches into our main table, I've added 5 into 2025. So that's in April, June, August, October, and December, and then the other 2 into 2026. Now looking at BlackSky, they have a launch contract for 5 launches of their Gen 3 satellites, with one of those launches already completed in 2025. BlackSky also reported that they completed an acquisition of LeoStella. This is the company that used to manufacture their Gen 2 satellites. This was back in November, and they stated that they plan a regular deployment cadence in 2025. So again, I've listed the completed launches on the left. Most of those were with their Gen 2 satellites. The launch that just happened in February of this year with Electron, that was the first Gen 3 satellite. So it's difficult to take away any meaningful history in launch cadence, given this is their new satellite. I'm going to work on the statement of a regular deployment cadence of Gen 3 satellites and assume that means one per quarter. So I'm going to add one for May, one for August, and one for November. And then on the right again, I've just visualized what that launch cadence looks like. So adding in the predicted BlackSky launches to our table, we add in the 3 planned for 2025 into May, August, and November, and we add the 1 for 2026. Next up is Leidos, and this one's kind of hard to predict. The contract signed stated 4 launches in 2024 and 2025. They already completed 1 of those in 2024, which should mean the other 3 are to happen this year. Based on gut feeling, I've just decided to spread them out by quarter, putting 1 in May, 1 in August, and 1 in December. And here I've added them into the main table. I've just colored them purple to distinguish them as HASTE launches. So Hawkeye had signed a contract for 3 launches, with 1 of those already completed in 2023. So this is a relatively older contract. Looking at the table of launches, they seem to have completed most of their launches on the Falcon 9 rocket, with only 1 back in 2023 on the Electron. I haven't seen that their next launches are booked on the Falcon 9, so assuming they continue this launch cadence of every 5 to 4 months, and that the next 2 launches are going to happen on the Electron, I've added 1 for May and September of this year. And I'm just going to add those 2 launches into May and September on this table. So for the rest of the customers, it's kind of hard to find very good information, but looking at Spire and Northstar, they have a constellation of 12 satellites planned. They launched 4 of them in a single launch in 2024, and they plan to launch the other 8 across 2 Electron launches by 2026. So I'm just going to assume 1 of those launches happens in 2025 and 1 in 2026. For the other customers that have a single launch booked, the Victus Haze mission says that's targeted for 2025. The Hypersonics launch, which is a HASTE mission, is also planned for 2025. And then the NASA LOXSAT mission, this was planned for 2025, but the contract was awarded back in 2020. So it's been a long time, but as Rocket Lab is building the satellite, let's trust that they can hold that timeline and schedule it for the very end of 2025. Capella Space, I couldn't really find much information, so I'm just going to put that into 2026. And the Department of Defense satellite, that launch contract says that's planned for April of 2026. So I've added all those launches from the previous slide. I've added them in yellow because I'm not certain on the dates, but I've kind of just spread them around based on gut feeling, putting 2 into Q3 and 2 into Q4, with the other 3 planned for 2026. So that would mean a total of 6 launches in Q2, 6 launches in Q3, and 7 launches in Q4 for 2025. Now, coming back to our chart from the beginning, we can update the number of predicted launches to add that 6 in Q2, 6 in Q3, and 7 in Q4, which would give a total of 24 launches. So to mimic the quarterly call language, there's clearly a viable path to 24 launches. And if they can achieve that, that would mean a 50% increase over the 16 launches completed last year. Of course, nothing in this video is financial advice. It's all pure speculation, and I'm sure this prediction is going to age very poorly. But hopefully I can at least get the quarterly totals right, but I'll definitely enjoy seeing if any of the months end up being correct. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you want to see any more videos like this, hit the subscribe button or leave a comment and let me know what you'd like to see or if you agree or disagree with the predictions. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.